Natalie, Franke, Head of Community here at HoneyBook, and welcome to our Q&A series with the experts. In this video series, we are answering your questions, and today we are sitting down with Paige Griffith of the Legal Paige. Paige is a virtual law firm working with small businesses and wedding industry professionals. She is a certified Juris Doctor, barred in the state of Montana, and has a double BA in economics and political science. After working as a federal law clerk for a number of years, she traded the traditional law life for a virtual one and opened the doors to the Legal Paige in 2018. Paige helps her clients to run legal and protected businesses and counsels them on issues related to contracts, intellectual property, privacy, and business law. Her mission is to create an online space where the law isn't so scary and entrepreneurs can get legally legit in no time. Let's jump in. Hi, Paige. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thanks for having me, Natalie. It's so good to be here with you talking again.
Last time we did talk, we kind of talked about how we weren't quite in the land of force majeure yet, that there was some ambiguity. So let's actually maybe start there. Remind us a little bit about what force majeure means, and then how things have changed since we last talked.
Yeah, so this is kind of the big question for everyone right now. And force majeure, you guys, it's an event and it is a clause that you have in your contract. So it really is an event that is unpredictable, unforeseeable, and the big word, impossible. It makes it impossible for you or your clients to perform under the contract. I will say they vary from contract to contract. And everyone is in their, pre-existing contract that now they're having to use with the current COVID-19 situation and, events getting postponed. They're looking at that clause and they're like, okay, is it a force majeure event? You guys, regardless of if kind of epidemic, pandemic are listed in your clause, I bet act of God is listed in your clause. And I'm just going to make a blanket statement here. And I think it's really true, Natalie, across the board. It is impossible to perform events at this point in time. You would be kind of going against CDC guidelines and White House guidelines for having events more than 10 people. And I would say, I think we're close to half of the states across the country now are at stay-at-home orders, which means you can't even leave your house unless you're an essential worker. And this is not an essential event you would be able to go to. So you'd be violating a government order. It's across the board. It's impossible to perform. Thus, force majeure is invoked. And the issue is none of these pre-existing force majeure clauses have anything to do with fees. That's kind of the world in which we live right now is, event industry professionals are looking at their force majeure clauses and they're like, okay, it's impossible to perform. So the one thing you guys need to know is that clause is in place so that you cannot get sued for breach of contract for not performing. It's really just a performance clause at this point. It's just saying clients can't host the event. You can't say breach of contract on them, and they can't say breach of contract on you for not performing your services because you can't go to the event. So essentially that's what force majeure is, but it has really nothing to do with fees because nobody had any explicit language in their clauses regarding fees. So we're good. Everybody's good. All parties on that front. Nobody's going to get sued, breach of contract for non-performance. Right. And it's really dual-sided now. So yes, force majeure is implicated, but then next thing is, so what do we do with rescheduling, right?
We've been really advocating internally here at HoneyBook with this movement around reschedule, don't cancel. As a large community, we're saying to the public, look, these small business owners rely on you and rely on this income. If you can, postpone this until we are in a different season. And so for those clients that are able to do that are able to reschedule and not cancel with the small business owners, what would be the next step?
Rescheduling is pretty much best case scenario, and most clients are doing that. And the first thing is, of course, be really proactive with your client communication, work with them on just continually talking about postponing and rescheduling. You really want to work with your clients on rescheduling. I wholeheartedly believe in this reschedule, don't cancel campaign that HoneyBook and Rising Tide Society have. And we at the Legal Paige have been promoting that as well. And here's what you do in those situations. So you have an existing contract and you probably need to terminate performance obligations under that contract, or you need to move dates, you need to move venues, those type of things. So there's really two options here. The first is just an addendum or an amendment to the contract. Those are the same things. They're used interchangeably. And it's really like a a little tiny, like 1-pager document that you would have clients sign that really just changed the date of the services that were going to be performed under your original contract to a new date. It could also change the location. I know some people are changing venues and those type of things. So addendum is really like, if you are super, super comfortable with every clause in your existing contract and you're willing to just easily move over to a new date or new location and kind of services and your package is all still staying the same, then an addendum or an amendment would be appropriate. As I'm sure you have heard and many people are talking about, is they need to update their contracts. So now everyone's kind of looking at their contract and being like, this is unclear. I need to add this in. Maybe you need some more protection clauses in your contract. We have eyes on the specific language in our contracts, which makes this contract attorney very happy. Contracts are important and we all have them. And that's the one thing I would tell people is, contracts are in place for a purpose, and we really need to utilize our contracts the best way possible. And so it may be best at this point to get rid of the old contract and void and terminate it so that you can update your contract. And this isn't saying like you're protecting your business like tenfold more and your clients get nothing out of it. I believe in two-sided contracts, and a lot of the things that you need to update probably are protecting your clients as well, a little bit more than what they did previously. And again, it's like you don't really want to keep your original contract because your services are going to be so different. And it's kind of like a rescheduling/termination contract is good for that. And what it does is it like releases you from performance obligations under the previous contract. It terminates and voids the previous contract, but essentially what it does is it holds fees paid as credit on their account to be used within X amount of time. And that's kind of the name of the game right now is clients want to know what you're doing with the funds they have paid you thus far. Honestly, there's probably thousands of dollars on the line here. Clients want to feel really comfortable with what you're doing. And when you kind of put that in a legal document and you kind of take them through the steps of, here's what we're doing, we're transferring this amount to be credit for this amount of time. We can split up my services. A rescheduling termination contract is best there. And then you just hold their fees on credit, and then you would be able to update an existing contract later on and be able to sign a new contract for your services once your clients kind of decide what they're doing. It's so important, you guys, to document this and have sign-offs with your clients so that it's not like a he said, she said, like email back and forth situation. Just if at all possible to avoid any risks and liability in the future, like you really need that mutual resolution that you and your clients come to needs to be documented and both parties need to sign some type of agreement to that effect.
Everyone kind of has a different opinion. I would love your take on this. If clients are canceling and they're asking for a full refund on the retainer, even maybe let's say though you had that, it's a non-refundable retainer in your contract, what should a business owner be thinking about when a client comes and says, I want a refund?
Yeah. So the one thing you want to use is the wording in your contract, I will say. Like that's a really good first step. And Natalie, you hit it there where you said, the word non-refundable, retainer, reservation fee, deposit, those wordings are really, really important to be communicating with your clients about from the get-go. Obviously, I would suggest try to keep your retainer, hold on to them if at all possible. Also need to state here, there's no law out there saying you absolutely have to give back your full retainer under these situations. Like you have to give everybody back a refund. That's just not true. There's no law that says you have to do that. And your contract is there for a reason. And that's where I just keep pushing people to. You would probably have to give a full refund on fees paid if you didn't have a contract. Right. But that's why we have one. And we have all these stipulations for rescheduling and cancellation purposes. And so you want to look at your force majeure clause and you want to look at your cancellation rescheduling clause. The reason it's sticky is because we're not in the land of people are deciding to cancel and reschedule. They don't have that decision. They're now having to based upon what's happening with coronavirus and stay-at-home orders and all of these, government mandates that are getting put into place. So both parties don't have a choice. And that is kind of where the crux of the issue lies is, does the cancellation rescheduling non-refundability portion of your contract really stay intact through all of this? Lots of people have a fee clause. This is where I would go for people. So like get out of the cancellation rescheduling clause world. And if you just have like a blanket fee clause and it says non-refundable retainer, non-refundable reservation fee, that's good. It's a good first step there because the amount you paid under the fee clause is non-refundable. And unfortunately, it really boils down to a mutual resolution with your clients. And that is where I always suggest people have empathy. They really work with their clients. And at the end of the day, you may not have like a win-win scenario for both, right? Like, and if you get a lawyer involved or God forbid, now you're having a court interpret your contract, that is what you want to try to avoid. And that's what a mutual resolution with your clients will do, right? Is you finally come to some type of agreement, whether you're giving back a portion of fees that they have paid, they might not be getting the full refund that they wanted back. So it's like, semi lose situation there, right? Like both parties aren't winning and getting what they want. But again, you're avoiding thousands and thousands of dollars of lawsuits and legal stuff in the future. And I don't say that to scare anybody. That's the reality is when you get lawyers involved too, they're just going to try to come to a settlement. Like that's what lawyers, they're trying to avoid you getting into court. Everyone should know that legal situations are usually settled. Like 99% of lawsuits are settled. So you just avoid getting lawyers involved, from the get-go. And that's what everyone really needs to do is like putting your business owner hat right now on is you really have to kind of look at risks and liabilities in the future. Like if your clients are really like steadfast in wanting a refund, wanting to cancel, they're like throwing all this stuff out at you to probably scare you to give you a refund. Just know like you have a contract for a reason. You have those words, non-refundability in your contract for a reason. The other thing that I will say here is it's important to document what services you have performed thus far.
Yes.
And so you want to put that in your email communication with them. That's kind of like, you talk about non-refundability and then you email them and you say, and here's what I have performed thus far under our contract. You guys, you can add in communication time with them. You can add in planning with them. You can, of course, if you have like done a session with them prior to their wedding, if you're a photographer, any of that stuff you want to document because that will show you that you are allowed to keep a portion at least of fees paid. It's tricky. You have to look at your contract language. Please stop like taking what people are throwing out online and in Facebook groups for word, right? Like they probably aren't an attorney. They probably have a completely different contract than you. And maybe they've been advised by someone regarding their situation. And yours is probably different. Coronavirus in general doesn't mean like contracts are gone. I think that's where people are getting mistaken is they just think, oh, coronavirus is here, so we don't have a contract anymore. Give me back all the money. And it's just like not how it works in the business world. At the end of the day, as long as you can reach a mutual resolution with your clients, that's the best thing you can do right now. Stand strong with your contracts. Be a good business owner. I know we all need to have empathy and be kind towards our clients, but it's really critical right now for the financial stability and viability of your business to use your contracts. That's why they are there. And work with your clients on a mutual resolution. Have customer service at the get-go, but come to a mutual resolution, document that, and then just move forward. And it's like piece by piece with every client. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Paige Griffith, I am the owner and lead attorney behind The Legal Paige, Paige. Find me, The Legal Paige on Instagram, Legal Paige on Facebook, legalpaige.com. It's pretty simple. But we do have a Facebook group, and that's where I'm kind of funneling everybody to right now because I'm only one person. We have a small team of women behind The Legal Paige, and we're all trying to navigate this as well. So if you have questions, you want to continue this conversation, head there.